When pork chops are done right, they are juicy, tender, and absolutely loaded with flavor. But they can be tricky to cook. Too thin and they dry out, cook too long and they're incredibly tough. Well, I want to show you my foolproof procedures to make perfect pan-fried pork chops every single time, and going with an easy sauce I learned in culinary school that takes it to the next level. We're first going to start off by knocking out some prep. Sound good? Let's cook. I have 4 10 to 12 ounce each double thick cut bone-in pork chops. What I'm looking for when I purchase them from the grocery store is that they are bright pink in color with no discoloration anywhere and have a nice fat cap on the outside and a good amount of fat running through the center. Now, when purchasing them, you may notice that the backbone is still intact, no problem, but one thing is for sure, the rib bone should still be running through it. Now, my personal belief is each pork chop should be 1 to 1.5 inches thick. If it's too thin, they will dry out and overcook with a quickness. It should also have at least a 1/4 inch fat cap around the outside, and if you can purchase them with a 1/2 inch to 1 inch fat cap on the outside, even better. What I'm going to do is take the time to pat them dry thoroughly on both sides with a paper towel. Doing this will make sure I get that beautiful brown Maillard crust on the outside. Remember, moisture is the enemy of a beautiful Maillard brown crust. Next, I'm going to generously season all of them with coarse salt. When seasoning, be about 1 foot away so that you cover as much surface area as possible. If you're too close, it will cake on salt in specific areas. You're also going to do the exact same thing with cracked black pepper. Now, I've tested this, and I don't believe you need to bring these up to room temperature for 1 hour. In fact, it will only raise about 10 to 15 degrees, and it's going to make no substantial impact on the final result. In addition, I was always taught cold protein, hot pan, hot oil. This will also widen the margin of cooking time, ensuring you can get a beautiful brown crust on it, and will prevent it from overcooking too quickly. Now, when it comes to pans, the 2 best options are going to be a 12-inch stainless steel pan or a 12-inch cast iron skillet. Now, the reason you're going to need a 12-inch is because I've got 4 big pork chops. For me, I'm going with the cast iron. It gets hot quickly and stays hot. So we're bringing everything over to the cooktop. I'm only going to drizzle in about 2 teaspoons of olive oil. Then I'm immediately cranking the heat up to high. And before you start yelling at me, telling me to use avocado oil, I've tested this ad nauseum with pork, beef, chicken, and fish, and I've found no significant difference in the Maillard due to the higher smoke point of the avocado oil in comparison to the olive oil. In fact, I've actually found the olive oil to have a richer flavor, more delicious. But you use whatever you want. If you love avocado oil, then absolutely you should use it. Once your oil starts to lightly smoke, it's now time to pan sear. When I grab the pork chops, though, I usually try to mop up all the extra salt and pepper on there. Hey, it's just more flavor. Nothing goes to waste over here. Then what I'm going to do is put it fat cap side down in the pan, standing upright and leaning against the side of the pan. Now, if you're using that stainless steel pan, things will sort of slouch over and fall in. So what you can do is actually squeeze all 4 pork chops together and hold them in place. We are going to cook these as is for exactly 2 to 2.5 minutes to start to get that nice brown on there. After that amount of time, we're going to take the heat from high down to medium. Now let's have a look at our fat cap. You start to see that beautiful brown on there. Excellent. We're now going to lay them flat in the pan. Try to spread them out as best you can to ensure we get a sear and not a steam. Once they are all laid down, we're cooking them for in between 4 and 4.5 minutes to get that beautiful brown. After that amount of time, let's just have a quick look at what we're dealing with here. Yep, beautifully golden brown Maillard crust. Excellent. We're going to flip over all of the pork chops. Then we're taking the heat from medium down to about low medium, closer to the lower side. I'm now going to add in 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Remember, you control the salt content, not a butter company. In addition, I'm adding in 1.5 peeled shallots. Then next up, 6 to 8 fresh sprigs of rosemary. Other great options are sage or thyme. Then 10 to 12 garlic cloves. This is going to season up our butter. Now, once the butter has melted, we're going to scoot the pork chops over a little bit and baste each one in that butter. We're going to continue to do so on that low to medium heat for between 8 and 10 minutes. And what it's going to do is infuse the rosemary, garlic, shallot, and butter flavor right into it, making them that much more delicious. I'm trying to compete with a restaurant here, and this is looking incredible. And once they reach that 133 to 135 degrees Fahrenheit internally, I know I'm good to go. Pork does not need to be well done. A little bit of pink in there is going to go a long way to ensuring it's juicy and tender. At this stage, I'm going to remove the pork chops and set them on a rack over a sheet tray lined with parchment paper. You could just put a rack over a platter, no problem. I also like to scoop up as much of that rosemary, garlic, and shallot as possible and just put it on the top. More flavor, better for me. And for all the leftover fat in the pan, you can completely discard it or you can strain it and keep the fat for any comfy recipes. Just put it in the fridge. So good. Now for my sauce. It's a candied pancetta glaze. And I have 8 ounces of pancetta. Now, pancetta is like Italian bacon. It's aged a little bit. It's got a little funk to it with some spices in the inside. It's really, really good. You could also use thick cut bacon or even guanciale. What we want to do is medium dice it. So thinly slice it as best you can. Then we're going to julienne those slices, turn it 90 degrees, and then we are going to medium dice it just like this. And of course, you could prep this up even before you cook the pork chop. Briefly set it to the side. Next up, you're going to need some simple syrup. Now, you've seen me do this before, and it's very easy to do. It is a combination of equal parts water and sugar. So add 1 cup of water and 1 cup of sugar to a small to medium-sized sauce pot. We're just going to boil it over high heat. You want to ensure all the sugar is completely dissolved. Once it is, you're done. We're talking 5 minutes max. That's it. Now for this sauce, we're going to add the pancetta to the pan that's been completely removed of all the fat. Now we're going to cook it over medium heat while frequently stirring for about 3 to 4 minutes or until it becomes nice and crispy just like bacon. At this stage, we're going to deglaze with a 1/3 cup of sherry vinegar. Other options are rice or white vinegar. We're going to cook it until the amount of sherry vinegar is reduced by 1/2. And then at this stage, we're going to add in a 1/2 cup of our simple syrup, and it will only take about 2 to 3 minutes for it to cook down and become a nice thick syrup. And the pancetta becomes candied. That's why this is known as a candied pancetta glaze. Oh, you got to try it out. It's so good. And next, we're going to bring back over our pork chops, remove the rosemary, garlic, and shallots. And then I just like to give it a thin coat on each side to help infuse the flavor and to heat them back up a little bit. And Comies, don't forget to have fun while cooking. And one of the ways you do it is tasting things throughout the process. You get to learn what flavors they should be at which stage, and then also you get to eat food. What's better than that? What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to pair these up with a side of sauteed green beans. It's going to complement this beautifully. Here's how you do it. I've got 1 pound of haricots verts, which are just a French variety of green beans. And it literally translates from French to English as green beans. So yes, you can absolutely just use plain green beans for the exact same results. These tend to be a little bit longer and thinner. We're taking them over to a large pot of boiling water. I'm going to season it up so that it's as salty as the ocean, which will in turn season up my green beans. And in addition, this will also help our green beans keep that beautiful green color. These are going to cook for exactly 3 minutes total. They should still have a nice crunch to them. So what we want to do after that 3-minute time period is just take them out and strain them completely. You do not need to rinse them in cold water or put them in a nice bath. Because while they are drying out, we are going to add a 12-inch stainless steel or non-stick skillet right to the cooktop. We're next adding in 2 tablespoons of olive oil and turning the heat to medium-high. After about 1 minute of it heating up, we're next adding in our haricots verts, and we are going to saute those for only 1 to 2 minutes. So be sure to move the green beans around by rocking the pan back and forth with one hand and using tongs or a spoon in another hand to move everything around. When they are done sauteing, you should start to see a little bit of brown sear on them, and they'll also crisp up a little bit. These are perfect. Now what we're going to do is turn the heat down to low-medium, push all the green beans to one side. In the other side, we're adding in 4 cloves of finely minced garlic and 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter. We're just going to cook the garlic for 30 to 45 seconds or until it becomes fragrant. Now, you've seen me do this a million times when cooking mushrooms. Same process. Once the garlic is cooked, mix all of it together with the green beans. We're going to briefly set it to the side. Now, in a small bowl, I have 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard. I'm going to add in 1.5 tablespoons of soy sauce, mix it with a spoon or a small whisk until it's completely combined. Then we're going to dress the green beans in it, followed up with the juice of 1/2 lemon or about 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. I'm going to season to taste with coarse salt and fresh cracked black pepper. Give it a stir, and then of course, you know I have to try one out. Those flavors are so good. It's going to go so well with that pork. And I always say going back to these fundamental classic techniques, practicing them just makes better food and ultimately the best memories. Let me show you how I'll plate this up. First, though, I want to remove the pork from the bone and just make sure we're at a really good temperature internally. It should be about medium. I'm going to thinly slice it. You should still see a little bit of pink in there, right in the center. This looks fantastic. Again, cooking it to 135 degrees Fahrenheit internally will ensure you have beautiful, delicious, flavorful pork. Let's go with the squeeze shot to see some of that goodness run through. Perfectly cooked, my friends. So good. Now you can serve this right in the pan with the glaze, or you can serve it separately, which is what I'm going to do. On a plate, stacked up, and then drizzling on an abundance of that candied pancetta glaze. Honestly, once you taste this glaze together with the pork, you will never want another sauce with your pork ever again, I promise you. Now, another option is to grab the rosemary that we use to baste with the pork and just remove the leaves from the sprigs and just garnish with it. They're cooked, they're a little bit crisp. It adds a nice punch of color and flavor to it. Now for the green beans, I just add them to a bowl and then using a spatula, scrape out all that garlic, soy, Dijon mustard goodness. You need it. Then I'm optionally garnishing with some crushed red pepper flakes. The flavors in this, And my mic apparently was too far away and then completely died. Don't you just love technology? What I was trying to say is that the pork and beans combination is fantastic and it's really easy to do. I think you and your family will love it. And if you like pork, you should absolutely check out my mustard cherry sauce on my pork loin. Oh, is it so good? Got a great recipe video. I'll see you on there.